Okay, what you're saying, people, and welcome back to another live stream. Before we get into this, make sure you follow me on my Telegram channel. I'll left a link to that in the description below and the live chat. There's a lot of different trading setups there throughout the week, so make sure you go check that out. But like I said, another live stream for us, can talk you through what's going on in the charts today and see if you've got any opportunities coming up. So first one, start with AUD/USD. So you can see with this one, we've had a really strong push to the downside here. I did say yesterday that we were looking very bearish here, and there was a good chance that we could see a push to the downside, breaking through our daily trend line here in the market. So if we can hit the recent swing lows of price, first, second, third test, as you can see, we've got a strong close below that trend line, indicating to us that potentially could be seeing a breakthrough for price. Again, we had a strong support going through the market around this area here, 0.76 500, which looks like price is breaking through that. So with that close yesterday of the daily, I think we could be seeing a bit of retrace the next couple of days, but I do think we could be seeing price start to break to the downside and get a bigger move to around 0.74, which is our previous weekly resistance in the market. So if I just highlight that area on the weekly, so you can see previous weekly resistance, we didn't really get a retest of this area. Price pushed to the upside, started to consolidate for a few weeks, as you can see here, and it looks like potentially could be seeing price break to the downside and come retest that 0.74 previous weekly resistance area now as weekly support. So that's why I expect AUD/USD to be going for the next few weeks now, or couple weeks. But yeah, for right now, price is looking very bearish here. Could be expecting to see a bit of retracement now for AUD/USD. You can see we're getting a bit of an engulfing candle there on the 4-hourly time frame. So I do expect to see some push to the upside now for AUD/USD. But again, I don't think it would be long-lived, as probably this move to the upside probably only be retracement for the bigger move to commence to the downside. Now we might see a retest of that trend line or retest of that support and resistance there, maybe about halfway up, before I do expect price to roll over to the downside with that daily momentum coming back into the market there. So biases to the downside for AUD/USD. I see price going to around 0.74, potentially even further, depending if it's a reversal or retracement on the weekly. But I do see us continuing a lot further to the downside for AUD/USD. Yeah, so for now, it's a bit retracement, then I expect continuation to the downside, unless we was to see this daily candle close back above the trend line, and that will be a false breakout, and then we have to reanalyze the chart from there. But right now, price is looking very bearish. I do see AUD/USD falling to the downside. Euro/USD looking very bearish here. Again, we did say yesterday that we do expect to see Euro/USD roll over to the downside there. As you can see, looking very, very bearish down the 4-hourly time frame, coming back to our recent swing low in the market, all the way down here. So actually create some new lows there, as you can see, just taking out that previous low. And price is still looking bearish. You can see on the daily, just rolling over to the downside. We're still at that weekly level of resistance turn support, so it'll be interesting to see if price was to break through it or not. If we get a strong bearish close on the weekly, that could actually mean a break of that level, and then we could actually see Euro/USD go a lot further, potentially to around 1.16184. So that's where I think Euro/USD could be headed in the next few weeks, if we were to see a break below this weekly barrier that price is currently trading around there on the weekly. But for now, if I dive into the 4-hourly, you can see we're overly bearish here. I'm not sure if we see any reversal signs right now, because price is looking so bearish. Could see a bit of retracement now since we just made a new low. Might see price come back above that low again, retrace a little bit after, as you can see, a lot of consecutive bearish candles there in the market. Price might want to retrace itself a little bit, but I do think we could see potentially another drop to the downside for Euro/USD here. Yeah, see another drop, so expecting a bit of retracement now after that bearish move, but I think Euro/USD could see further downside potential. GBP/USD similar to Euro/USD again, looking very bearish here, as you can see on the daily, actually breaking through our daily trend line as well. So if we actually just draw that in there on the daily time frame, you can see multiple tests of this trend line. I did say it does look like we could probably see a bearish close or a breakthrough this daily trend line, and as you can see, we've had that break. Now I do think we could see further continuation to the downside now for GBUSD. However, we do have this area which we are coming into, which is this support around here, again, which did see a big push to the upside from. So again, that is something to take into account for GBUSD. And since price is kind of overextended as well on the 4H time frame, I think we could be seeing a push to the upside first before price does continue. As you can see, it was respecting that trend line really well till yesterday. We got a break, a retest, then the continuation to the downside. And as you can see, we've had about around 6, 7, 8 bearish candles in a row there. So yeah, we are definitely due some retrace, probably seeing maybe about halfway, maybe to come and retest this previous area of support. And you can see really nice support as resistance, so could see a bit of a push to that to the upside. But nonetheless, I do think GBUSD could see a bit of more further downside movement. As you can see, big push to the upside recently over the past few weeks and months as well for GBUSD. So we could look to relieve ourselves a little bit before maybe continuing in the next few weeks. But right now, price is looking better, expecting a bit of retrace in the 4 hourly, and then the continuation to the downside. Next, I look at USD CAD. So USD CAD, I did say yesterday, probably see a move into that 1.26 level again, which is this level just here. Key level of support and resistance. So if I just zoom out, you can see really nice support there. Again, if I go on the daily as well, really nice support around here as well, big push to the upside. So we're back testing that key level. I said if we can get above that key level and hold, we'll probably see price continue a lot further for USD CAD, because we're coming into a monthly area of support. And I do think, because it looks like towards the end of the month, price is pulling back quite heavily. So you can see this is our monthly level of support here. Previous big push to the upside, bit of false breakouts, retest it, continue to the upside. Now we're back at it again. So if we do hold this monthly support, I do think price will give us a bigger push to the upside. Since USD has been bearish for so long, we could start to see a bit of a reversal or at least a bigger retracement for USD CAD sooner or later. So we're coming into this area here for USD CAD 1.26. I do expect to see a bearish reaction here, maybe back into this range here. So if you can see our previous swing low in the market, so we've got a bit of a range between 1.26 and 1.24700, give or take. So we could see a swing back into this level here, seeing price retrace itself after this big push to the upside. And as you can see, price action a little bit choppy there as it's losing momentum to the upside. So I do expect to see a bit of retracement now for USD CAD after hitting this 1.26 level. However, if we get above it, we could be seeing that bigger push to the upside, a bit more of a reversal potentially for USD CAD, because again, been very bearish for past few weeks now. And as you can see, we're coming back into this trend line, If we break through that trend line, I do think the reversal could be on for USD CAD. But for now, coming back into that 1.26 area, I think we also got some confluence of a trend line in that area on the 4H time frame. So we've got this trend line here, connect those recent points there. You can see that we're pushing into this trend line here, had a couple tests of it, and now we've had a third or fourth test of that same trend line. So we could see that push to the downside for USD CAD back into around 1.249, 1.24700, and then maybe see price go against us as price looks to reverse itself, because I do think we're going to see a reversal sooner or later. It looks like the DXY could be pushing up as well. So again, could see a bit more strength in the USD CAD if we go and break through this trend line. USD JPY for this one, again, still very, very corrective. You can see the price action now on a 4 hourly time frame. As I said, price is coming back into this support, but I'm not too sure if it'll break through it because of how corrected price is. It was really lacking a lot of momentum. So that means that it didn't really have the strength or the momentum needed to go break through that, unless we saw a sudden change of momentum. But as you can see here, price is still very corrective, and it looks like we could actually be seeing a break of that 4 hourly trend line in the market there. So around about here, you had a really nice trend line, and right now price is pushing just above it. Of course, this Friday candle is just open. We still got about another 2 hours and 40 minutes before that candle is to close. But if you were to get a nice close above that, could be indicating another swing back to the upside for USDJPY, and we just continue this range that price has built up, which I do think could happen here, because it doesn't look like price has enough momentum to go and break through that support. And I said if we break through that support, we could tap back into 107, which is this key area of momentum here. As you can see, we had a really big push to the upside from around that area. So if you do break through that support, that's what I do expect price to come into. But as you can see, failing to do that, price doesn't have that much momentum to go and do that. It looks like it's popping back to the upside past that trend line, and for that, in that case, probably expect to see another swing to the upside and see price push on back to 109,200, or maybe even create a higher high, since the overall trend is still very bullish for this one. USD price is back at highs, which we did expect price to go and do that. Yesterday I did say when price was kind of trading around this area of resistance in the market, I would probably expect to see a break of this level and price push back to highs, since as you can see, the swing lows of the market was forming lower swing lows, and then previously it formed a higher swing low, so giving us that bit of a bowl shape. Looked like we're going to break out. I was thinking price could retrace to the downside one last time from that 0.93 area, maybe form one more higher low before breaking it. But as you can see, price was far too bullish, had a lot of momentum behind it, broke through that 0.93 barrier, and now it's back at the previous swing high. So again, not too sure if we'll see price take out this previous swing high here. Might see a bit of retracement, but overall USDCHF is still looking bullish here, and potentially could get a new high, since we're overall in that bullish trend. You can see on the daily, looks like we just had a pullback. Could be seeing that continuation further to the upside, so that is very, very possible there for USDCHF. But nonetheless, I do expect to see some further continuation to the upside, but I'm not too sure if we'll just see a bit of consolidation first, because again, previous swing high, and you can see on the daily the market is so extended that it does look like it wants to relieve itself, but because of the price action we're getting recently, we could see another push higher before the market then looks to take a breather on the higher time frames like the weekly. But nonetheless, prices overall still looking bullish for USDCHF, and it stays like that. We could expect further continuation to the upside. As the USD, this was looking very bearish here, as you can see on the daily, pushing to the downside, breaking through some key levels in the market. I did say that price for USD looks like it could be tapping back into 0.7, which is this key level of support there in the market. But as you can see, we've actually closed below that on the daily. Again, not too much, not many pips in the difference between the level and us closing, so we could see price push back up again. And as you can see, very bearish day here, so the market might want to go and retrace about half of that first before continuing. But I do think for USD, you're going to see a downtrend now in the market and see price pushing to the downside all the way back down to around 0.67700, because there was our previous weekly resistance. Price just broke out to the upside, consolidated a little bit, and now looks like it's come back down to retest that area. We did not see a retest of that 0.67700 level, so that's why I do think price is coming next for USD. And you can see we're sort of getting that bowl shape as well on the weekly as well, and looks like this week is just a week that just kicks everything off potentially. Of course, we still got about 3 more days before that weekly candle closes. A lot can happen in 3 days, but if it closes similar to how it's looking now, just as bearish, I do expect to see the following week be bearish as well, and maybe even the week after be bearish. So again, with that insight there, we could just be looking for those pullbacks in lower time frames, carrying that back down to around that 0.67700 level. So for now on USD, do expect to see a bit of upwards movement now, because you can see on the Friday chart, very bearish here. Big push to downside, no bullish candles in sight after we had that push to downside. So now I do expect to see some retracement. Again, not too sure how far it could go. Potentially could see price even come all the way back up to this level here in the market, which is kind of like our previous support. Retest that as resistance, and then continuing this journey to the downside. But again, I'm not sure if we'll see a pullback that much, since price on the weekly time frame looks like it's going to take over and see a nice drop to the downside. But nonetheless, I think NZD/USD is continuing to the downside. Any movement we see to the upside now is just retracement. So when you see the market start turning bearish again, I think that could be a really nice sign to go short and just continue this to the downside. And I don't think we'll see a move to the upside that's long lived. I think it's just going to be retracement for the bigger move to continue to the downside for NZD/USD. And again, similar to NZD/JPY, if we just jump to the daily, you can see very big bearish close there on the daily there, just breaking through that previous support that kind of held us a little bit sideways, which is this level here around 77, broke through that level, and we're looking very bearish. So I do expect price to continue to the downside. You can see in the weekly, very overextended there. Could see another bearish week next week as well if we close similar to how we're looking now. But for now, again, because NZD/USD and NZD/JPY do move very similar, do expect to see some upwards retracement now for those two pairs, because again, you can see very overextended here on the H4 time frame. So do expect to see price action give us a move to the upside because of how overextended we are. And then again, I do think the moves to the upside will be short-lived, just retracement for the bigger move to the downside. Next, we have a look at GBP/JPY. So GBP/JPY, again, you can see for this pair, we've been in a massive rally to the upside here for multiple days. If you even go into the weekly, you can see the weekly we really took off to the upside, and only last week was the first week that we've had a bearish candle in about 10, 12, 13 weeks of consistent bullish candles. So could be seeing some retracement now finally from a weekly point of view, which can be very powerful. If we know we're going to get a retracement now from the weekly, if we jump into the daily, the 4-hourly chart can look to ride those pullbacks to the downside and look to continue that move. I did say for GBP/JPY, if you broke below this resistance here in the market, key level resistance around 150, we'll probably see a move back into this support here, which is around 148. So I do see further downside potential to for GBP/JPY back into 1.48. It's not too far away from that level. Looks like we'll probably see a little bit of retracement, still about around 90 pips to go. So I do expect to see a bit of retracement now for GBP/JPY after that big push to the upside, maybe even retest the same area here as resistance. But if it does hold and retest it, again, that could be a nice place to go short and see a move back down to 148. So you can see previously, last time we saw a nice push to the downside from this area, that's where we found support, a lot of wicks to the downside, and that's where we rallied all the way up to 152, creating some new highs. So I do think 148 is still very possible there, and could see price tap into that level quite nicely for GBP/JPY. Let's go and take a look at GP/AUD. So for GP/AUD, this pair again has been very, very messy for the past, I don't know, a few weeks now. Again, we're stuck in a range here. So if I just zoom out of the 4-hourly time frame, actually if I go to the daily a little bit more clearer, you can see that we've got a nice range between this 1.8 level and 1.78 for GP/AUD. So price is literally stuck between this range here. You've had a few false breakouts, as you can see, either side. So a couple there to the upside, and we had a false breakout there to the downside. So I do think the market wants to break out. It looks like it wants to break out to the upside. As you can see, you've had this sort of somewhat impulsive leg, bit retracement. Then we had this push to the downside here for all these wicks here, a lot of dojis, a lot of indecision candles. I think that's just a retracement. Then we saw very strong push to the upside with this close yesterday's candle, and I think we're going to see that breakout to the upside. I think the next stop for GP/AUD is 1.82, which is that resistance just above us down the daily, because as you can see, if you just look left, when we were above 1.8 holding that as support, our range for GP/AUD was between 1.8 and 1.82. so if we see a breakout of 1.8, that resistance there again, the likelihood is price is going to follow and just complete that range to the upside and see price tap back into 1.82. So that's why I do see price going. jump onto the 4-hourly chart, you can see I had a big bearish close to the downside. But again, I think that could just be retracement after that big push that we've had to the upside for the past few weeks. I mean, for the past few candles there. So yeah, I do see GPAD pushing to the upside with that close there, and could see price go a lot further potentially. We could see a break of 1.82. But yeah, bias is definitely to the upside for GPAD. I'm expecting to see a breakout to the upside, especially with that daily close there. Again, 4 hour does not look the best. Looks like we might see price roll back over again first before we get that move. But again, as long as we hold that bullish candle there on the daily, do expect to see further continuation to the upside for GBP AUD, and potentially go even further than 1.82 if we were to see a breakout there and a potential reversal of price. Next, going to look at Euro NZD. So Euro NZD had a really nice breakout to the upside for this pair. Price broke to the upside really well, breaking out for all this consolidation here to the upside. I do still see further continuation to the upside for Euro NZD. The overall target for Euro NZD is 1.71, but I do think the next stop here is 1.7. So you can see we'll almost hit that area around 1.69700. So I do expect to see a little bit of retrace now for Euro NZD after pushing that far up to the upside. You can see on the daily there, massive bullish candle there on the daily. So I do expect to see a bit of retracement now. Again, that 1.7 level is just around this area here in the market. So as you can see, previous support, resistance, nice push to the downside. I do see price tapping back into that level. We've almost hit that, but you can see with the candles there on the 4-hourly and the daily, likely to see a bit of retracement first, but I do see further continuation to the upside. So I'm treating any movement that we see to the downside for Euro NZD just to be retracement for for the bigger move to continue to the upside. And again, long-term move is 1.71 and potentially even 1.72 for Euro NZD. So I only think price is going to the upside now for Euro NZD. I think this is our reversal potentially. So if you do see a push to the downside, which is quite likely because of how overextended we are, so we are likely to see a push to the downside. But again, I think it's short-lived. I'll probably see a continuation back up to 1.7 shortly after, and then potentially 1.71. So currently not in any trades at the moment. I was in a GBP CAD trade, but as you can see, we did see that push to the downside, breaking through my support level that was holding me in the trade, and we took off through that support. So did exit the trade after that. So currently not in any trades at the moment. Looking at some pairs to see if we can get some retracement and a continuation back to the downside for some of the USD pairs, which I just talked about earlier. Again, if anyone wants me to look at any different charts and different pairs, want some analysis on the pair they're looking at, just drop it down in the live chat, and I'll make sure I'll give you guys some analysis on those pairs. And then, yeah, I'll take a look at them as well. But first, I'll do Euro USD, and then I'll go into Euro JPY and gold. So for Euro USD for this pair, again, price was looking very bearish here. You can see we fell to the downside quite nicely. Very big push to the downside, and I do think price is probably going to continue to the downside now for Euro JPY. We're breaking through this daily area of resistance, which is around 1.19200, and we're getting below that. So I do think the next stop, if we to get a strong weak close to the downside, could be actually that 1.16 level, or probably that 1.175 level. So I do see Euro USD continue to the downside. You can see we just made a new low recently on the 4H, so I do expect to see a bit of retracement now, and then a continuation to the downside. Could see a bit of retracement back up to around 1.8900. So this support around here, the previous support before we got the move to the downside, could see a push back up to that level, and then the continuation. But for me, as long as price doesn't take out this previous swing high in the market, this swing high, I think the move is still to the downside. So any push we see to the upside, again, retracement, then we expect to see the continuation to the downside. As long as we stay underneath that level there in the market, take out that level, potential reversal at that point, and could see the market take off back to the upside. But for now, I only see price continue to the downside with the structure we're seeing on the 4-hourly and the daily. Euro JPY, for this one, big push to the downside. I did say yesterday we do expect to see price tap back into that 128 level, which is around here, 1.28300. Key level resistance and support. Push to the upside from that same level. We're now tapped back into it. You can see our previous swing high, this resistance here in the market, acted as a really nice resistance again. We broke to the downside, gapped down, pushed to the upside, retested that same level as resistance, then fell all the way to the downside, tapping into that 128 level. So price is looking very bearish after tapping into that level, fell to the downside. Now we're back into that range here, so we can treat that as a bit of a false breakout, giving us that double top and then falling to the downside. So for me, false breakout there, could see a bit of a range now for Euro JPY unless we're to go and break through that area. Again, we did break through this 4 hourly trend line as well, so that was kind of extra confirmation of us getting that move to the downside. But it does look like potentially could see a bit of a reversal. Again, if Euro USD was to continue to the downside, you can also expect to see Euro JPY continue to the downside as well, since they do move in similar fashion. So yeah, biases to the downside for Euro JPY. Again, expecting to see a push to the upside. A lot of pairs have had big moves recently, so expecting to see a push in the opposite direction to relieve themselves, to take a bit of a breather before seeing the continuation to the downside. So Euro USD, Euro JPY, I'm looking at further continuation to the downside, but for now I do expect to see a push up first because of all the moves that we've had yesterday. We're very bearish here, so I do expect to see the market push to the upside first and then continue to the downside. And if I take a look at gold, okay, so for gold, for this one, a lot of consolidation here. I was feeling like price could push to the upside for gold if you took out this level here, but as you can see, price has just been consolidating along it. Very, very unclear. We do have a key level of previous support in the market, which is around 1770. So if I just zoom out to the daily, you can see really nice support there, which was the level I was expecting price to come back and retest as resistance. But as you can see, if you look at the structure of price in the 4 hourly chart, it looks like we're forming lower highs in the market. So you see we had this big push to the upside past this key level here, 1738, came back below, forming us a lower high there, another lower high, and potentially gold form us a lower high. So for gold, I do see price rolling over to the downside. It also took out my trend line here in the market. So if I draw this in like so, you can see it took out that trend line. We've also had a retest of that trend line as well. So for gold, I think as long as price holds below that recent swing high, which is around 1738, I do see gold taking a dive to the downside, all the way back down to 1638, which is that previous swing low there in the market. This low here, if I just highlight that area. So I do see a push to the downside for gold back into 81, sorry, so 1681. I do see a push back into that level because again, the structure of that 4 hourly chart is giving me all bearish signs here of those lower highs failing to break through that 1738, the false breakout, the break of that trend line as well, and the retest. So I do see gold falling to the downside back to 1681, or potentially again this area of the market could reject us and send us back up again. So I probably would say that's probably the first target for gold. Push the downside into about 1700, 1706, and then a push back down into 1681. But that's where I do see gold falling into, potentially further, because again the structure of gold in the daily and the weekly is very bearish, so could easily see a lower low. But I do think price is going to roll over to the downside for gold back into 1706, and then that next target 1681. So I hope that analysis helped. But yeah, like I said, guys, if you want any analysis, just put it in the chat. I'll make sure I'll give you some analysis on those pairs. And again, if you're on any trades as well and you want to share, I'll take a look at them, see how they're going. Or if you've got the trading view link, just put that in the chat as well. I'll take a look at that on the trading view platform. But yeah, if any of you want me to look at any charts, just put it in the chat. I'll make sure I'll give you guys some analysis on those pairs.
Anywhere you go, you belong. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
Okay, going to take a look at GBCHF. Okay, so for GBCHF, for this pair, if I just start on the daily, you can see we're kind of getting this bowl shape here for GBCHF. Looks like we're rolling over to the downside. So we've had this recent big push to the upside. Price is starting to form, well, previously was forming higher highs, now forming lower highs. So looks like we're slowly rolling over to the downside there. Looking at the daily, 4 hourly as well, you can see those lower highs forming. Right now, price is a little bit choppy, but I do think we could probably see maybe one push to the upside and then roll over to the downside again. I think we could see potentially, if we hold strong below this level here in the market, really nice area of resistance, a lot of momentum to the downside. If we hold that as resistance, I really can see really test it as resistance. But if we do remain to hold that, I think we could see a drop where this area kind of took us, because we're getting that rollover on the daily that could continue us back into that support there for GBCHF there on the 4 hourly. So around 1.25, around 1.26, that level there. So we could roll over to the downside there for GBCHF if we continue to roll over. Looks like the price is doing that. Might again see one more test of that area of resistance again, but I do think we're going to roll over to the downside and see a nice drop into that area there for GBCHF. And again, even on the higher time frames, you can see on the weekly we've had a recent really strong rally to the upside there. So I do think we'll probably roll over to the downside and see price kind of relieve itself a little bit. And you can see on the weekly that support there, that 1.26 really lines up nicely with that previous support over there in the market. So we kind of got a little bit of a range there on the weekly, and you can see very big push to the upside, not much retracement on the weekly time frame. So I do think we'll roll over to the downside and see that retracement back to that 1.26 level. But again, it's very key that we do hold this resistance, because as you can see, a lot of momentum came from this area when we held this resistance very strong, and then we saw that drop to the downside. So again, getting that bowl shape there on the daily, probably see the momentum continues to the downside and hold that resistance there. Could see a nice drop back into 1.26. Whether we'll go and break through that and see a long retracement, not too sure yet. Probably cross that bridge when we get there, because again in the weekly we didn't really retest that resistance there, and we had that breakout. So if I just highlight that area on the weekly time frame, we didn't retest that, so could potentially see a breakout, potentially come and test that area there. But for now, just jumping on the 4 hourly, does look like we're going to roll over to the downside and see that bigger push, and go see that test of 1.26, because again, really key level of weekly and daily and 4 hourly support there in the market. As you can see, big push to the upside last time we tested it. So expecting to see a push to the downside for GBCHF for a price to roll over and then move into that 1.26 level. So I hope that analysis helped there. And also, again, we were talking about gold earlier, and I was expecting to see gold roll over to the downside as well, because we were looking at this one earlier, and looks like on the 4 hourly time frame we've broken through that trend line there in the market. We're holding this 1738 level. As you can see, really nice resistance, 1, 2, 3 false breakout, couple more false breakouts, broke below our trend line, retesting now as resistance, and looks like we're forming these lower highs there as well. So I do expect to see gold roll over to the downside to around 1706 and potentially into 1681 as well, which is that recent low. Probably can even see some new lows there, because gold again is very bearish on the higher time frames, at the weekly, the daily, and as you can see in the 4 hourly as well. So we're holding that 1738 level, retested that trend line. I do expect to see us roll over to the downside now and go and test that 1680 level, and potentially even further, depending how bearish we're looking there. And also looks like we're going to see some US dollar strength as well. So if that coming into play again with the strong US dollar, can help gold on its way to the downside. So expecting to see gold roll over to the downside. Same thing with GBCHF. So I hope the analysis helped on those two pairs.
Anywhere you go, anywhere you go, you belong. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
Okay, so I'm going to take a look at GP AUD. So for this pair, price is looking like it's pushing back down. So again, key level of resistance 1.8 for GPAUD. As you can see, really strong level of resistance and support. So support going through the market there and resistance as well. If you do see a break of this, we can expect to see a breakout of price. However, as you can see, price is getting bearish as we were reacting to that level. Looks like it's just retested there as resistance and falling to the downside. So it could be a case that price wants to have another swing at this range in the market here. So if I just go to the daily again and I draw in that support, which is at 1.78, which is kind of the range that price has been trading in between for GPAUD. As you can see, clear level of support and resistance, few false breakouts either side of these levels here. But again, we did have a really strong close on the daily, so I do think we could actually see a breakout to the upside looking at the daily chart. But of course, we still need to take out that 1.8 level, and this could just be another false breakout. But it looks like we are holding that as resistance. Might see another push to the downside, but again, I don't think it will be sustained very long, just because I feel like because of the daily chart, looking at the price action involved in that chart there, it looks like we could be seeing a breakout to the upside out of that 1.8 and a push into that 1.82 barrier. And as you can see, last time we held 1.8 as support. Price had a nice range between 1.82 and 1.8, but for now, very strong daily close there. Unless we're to get a bearish candle mimicking that bullish candle that we had yesterday, then I'll probably say back into that range, because I see a breakout to the other side, to the downside. But for now, price is looking very bearish. Probably expecting to see price continue a little bit further, but I don't expect price to get past sort of halfway between that range, so around that previous low point there. If we do take out that level, there's a high chance we'll probably see price go back to 1.78, which is that support all the way down there. But for me, looking at that daily, looks like we could be seeing a break to the upside. That's just my opinion on it, looking at the price action behind it. So I do see a bit of a pullback after that big push to the upside, but then I do think we could see further continuation to the upside for GPUD. However, take out this support here, that previous swing low where we saw that price actually come in, take out that level, and then I'll probably change my bias and expect to see price fall to 1.78, because we're getting past that halfway point, past the previous swing low of the market down the 4H, and then we'll probably just see a continuation of that range there in the market on the daily. So just clear that level, probably see just a continuation of that range, and price just continue further. But key level to look at, that previous swing low, take that level out, high chance we're going to come back to 1.78. Don't, and we hold, could be just a pullback to continue higher. So looking at that level to see what price does, and that will probably determine where I think price will go for GPAUD, depending on if we hold it, probably see a continuation to the upside, and if we don't hold it, I do expect to see a drop back to 1.78 and just a continue of that overall range there. So again, hope that analysis helped there, but again, key level determining where I think price would go. Okay, so it's just gone 12 p.m, so I'm going to look to end the live stream shortly and do a quick rundown on some of the pairs that we looked at earlier, see how they got on, and also take a look at any opportunities for later the week. So AUDUSD, for this pair, again, we've been looking very bearish recently. Had a really nice push to the downside for this pair. I am expecting to see some pullback now for AUDUSD. As you can see, we're already looking a little bit bullish there on the 4H. After that strong daily close there, I do expect to see a bit of retracement now. Again, we did break through that trend line, so there is a possibility that price could come back up and retest it now as support. So we could be coming back to retest that as support before continuing in that trading to the downside. But I do overall expect AUDUSD to be continuing to the downside. Any movement that we have to the upside is just retracement for price to retrace that bearish move that we had, and then I do expect to see AUDUSD fall to the downside a lot further. And again, I think targets around 0.74 for that pair. Next, we'll take a look at EURUSD. So again, very bearish as well, expecting to see a push to the upside for this pair after that move to the downside that we just had. Bit of retracement, could come back and test this level around here. Previous support in the market kind of held us, giving us a couple moves to the upside, could hold that as resistance before seeing another swing to the downside. Get above this level here, which is our previous swing high in the market, get above that area. I do think we can see a lot more upside potential if you go and take up that level, but for now price is looking very bearish, expecting a little bit of retracement and then continuation to the downside. GBUSD. GBUSD for this pair, against similar to EURUSD, we've had a big push to the downside, and likewise I do expect to see some retracement now coming back into this pair, because again, very strong move to the downside, very overextended on the 4H. You can see just a rally of the bearish candles there to the downside, so now I do expect to see a nice push to the upside, a bit of retracement. Like I said earlier, could see a move into around this level here. Price support held us quite nicely. Could see the market tap into this level here, which is around 1.38, and then continue to the downside. So again, similar to USD, as in any push to the upside, is just retracement as long as you stay above that previous lowest swing high in the market. USD CAD will tap into that 1.26 level, very important level of support and resistance. Again, if I highlight this area here in the market, you can see a really nice trend line. We're having a fourth test of that area, and that 1.26 barrier is also still intact as well. Really key level of support and resistance, as you can see, held this consolidation, broke to the downside, now retesting that with the trend line. So could see a push to the downside for USD CAD back into around this area here, which is our major swing low here, or previous major swing low after we formed this new one here. And I do think we could see maybe a push back into 1.24800 retracement, and then could see the continuation back up again. Or there's a chance we could break above that trend line, break above at 1.26 level, and if you do hold, could see a continuation back to that previous high up there after we had that big bullish run, because as you can see, big push to the upside all the way to those highs. If we held that area and held that trend line and the 1.26 level, good chance we could see price come back to test that high all the way up there. USD CHF for this one, like I said yesterday, we saw a nice continuation to the upside, breaking through that 0.93 barrier, and now we're kind of testing that previous swing high all the way up there. We might see a bit of retracement now, because again, a nice move to the upside, quite extended there. But again, not too sure. We could actually see some new highs here for USD CHF, because again, overall uptrend is still intact here, but you can see on the weekly and the daily, a little bit overextended there, but as you can see on the weekly, two dojis, that could just be a bit of retracement, and could see the following week be bullish as well. So bias is still to the upside, but there's a good chance that we could see a bit of retracement now coming into those highs. Could see a bit of rejection, maybe retest the 0.93, and then could see the continuation after that. And USD for this pair, again, it looks like it's pulling back down below that trend line. I said if you break through that trend line, could see a nice continuation to the upside, back up to 109.26. So a really key level of resistance. Kind of just giving us that range there, but looks like we're pulling back under. Again, we still do have another hour before this candle closes, so it'll be interesting to see how it closes. If it closes back beneath that trend line, probably see prices continue to squeeze between this support and that trend line, just squeeze in that gap and eventually see a breakout. Break to the downside, again targets 107, this key level here, really nice area of momentum, big push to the upside. I think we'll see a nice push back into 107. However, if you do hold that support and break the trend line, so go the opposite direction, I think another swing back up to that high there and just continue that range and just give us another swing. Potentially could see a break to the upside, but again, we still do have that weekly trend line intact, all the way from, I believe, around, so if I just draw it in now actually, and just zoom out, you can see if I connect this recent swing highs here in the market, all the way across there, so it's intact since 2016, and we're testing that same trend line again right now. So if we do hold this trend line here, we could see a bigger move to the downside and potentially go a lot further. So again, if we do see a breakout to the upside out of that 4-hourly range, I'm not too sure if price will last too long. Could just be one last push, one last forced move before coming back down. But right now, still intact with that range. Could see a break to the downside where I do expect price to hit that 107 mark. However, if we don't break through that trend line, could see a swing back up to as high as up there. So that's what I'm expecting for USDJPY. So those are the major pairs we're expecting to see throughout next week and probably going into next week. And that does bring us to an end of the live stream. I hope you all found it useful, enjoyed it as well. If you have any questions, just put it down in the comments of the video. Make sure I get back to you guys. But like I said, thank you for joining me in the live stream. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to the channel and also leave a like on the video if you're feeling generous. But thanks guys for watching, and until the next one, I will see you guys later.